What do you make of all the honors that are coming your way now? The Governor General's Award for the Performing Arts.
Duck. There's another honor coming.
Yeah. Well, this is a good one. The Governor General's gone for the Lifetime Achievement. Does this mean it's over?
Well,
your lifetime is over?
That's the news that you start getting from the heap of attention. You know, it's a good thing it comes like, you know, in one's twilight years, because it would certainly stop you dead in your tracks if it came to you any younger. Because there is a kind of memorial aspect to the whole enterprise.
It's right 30 to this life. And the magazine articles. Are there any magazines yet that have a flattering profile of you?
I'm waiting for the backlash.
Until Stranger Music, a lot of the poetry was out of print, right?
Yeah, a lot of the records were unavailable, and a lot of the poetry was out of print until quite recently. But yeah, in Canada, I think the Book of Mercy may have been around or something like that, but nowhere else was there any hint of it.
Selected Poems was 1968?
Yeah.
And it sold 250,000 copies, I read somewhere.
Something like that.
What's happened since? Is poetry going out of style?
I don't know. I haven't kept up with the charts, but
Leonard, they don't do charts for poetry.
I look through Billboard every week.
Nothing.
Can't find the poetry charts.
But do you sense that it's retreating from fashionability in any way?
I don't know if it ever was very fashionable. I mean, we used to mimeograph our books and magazines and hand them out to whoever would take it in Montreal. And then there was a brief period when I think really Irving Layton made poetry popular in this country through that program that Nathan Cohen ran, Fighting Words. Yeah, I mean, that was the first time there was any real national consciousness about poetry. And I think that Irving Layton single-handedly mounted that assault. But
that's a really nice. I never thought of that before. I mean, Irving Layton became a celebrity not directly through his poems, but because he sat there with Morley Callahan and Ralph Allen and all the cantankerous people and argued with Nathan on Fighting Words.
Yeah, argued well and insisted that this enterprise be taken seriously. I think he really did turn it around.
What were the rules as you started to put Stranger Music together? What did you decide? Because there are some well-known early poems that are left out. Go by Brooks isn't there. The only tourist in Havana turns his thoughts homeward.
You know, I think in putting together an anthology, you're going to end up disappointing people who have favorites that you really haven't heard about. I tried my hand at this thing a few times and despaired. I asked some people to help who might have had a handle on it, and they were kind of busy. These are over the years because this has been expected for a number of years, this anthology. Finally, my old friend, her father was my baby doctor. I mean, when I was a baby, he was my doctor. And she's an editor.
Is this Nancy Bacall?
Nancy Bacall, yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't recognize that name when she was thanked in the credits. So she's an old friend.
She's an old friend and has been very helpful and to me over the years and knows my work really thoroughly. And I asked her to have a shot at it, and she came up with it. And Rebecca De Mornay knows the work very well, and also put her check marks on the one that she liked, and then I reviewed it. I also consulted an earlier selection that was made by Bill Fury, a poet in Montreal, friend of mine. And that's what we came up with. And it's true, there is a certain kind of slant. I think that we didn't go for favorites or what we knew or not or didn't know to be favorites, but a certain kind of crispness to the poems, that they had to satisfy that level of excellence. But I think I did leave out a few favorites, and I probably made a mistake there.
You'll never make a memoir as to the 1990s. All the people who are writing memoirs this year are explaining how they've never made mistakes in their lives. Now, Rebecca De Mornay, who's part of your life now, would she know all your poems, your earlier poems? Because she wasn't around when...
No, she wasn't around when most of it was written. But she's read those poems very carefully, and she's a good writer herself, and has a real interest in those poems and in discovering the psychic sources of my own disappointments, of her disappointments in me. So it's all down there. So she studied it very carefully.
Would you do a poem from one of the earlier poems? All about for EJP? We'll never know who EJP is.
E.J. Pratt.
I know.
I once believed a single line in a Chinese poem could change forever how blossoms fell, and that the moon itself climbed on the grief of concise weeping men to journey over cups of wine. I thought invasions were begun for crows to pick at a skeleton, dynasties sown and spent to serve the language of a fine lament. I thought governors ended their lives as sweetly drunken monks, telling time by rain and candles, instructed by an insect's pilgrimage across the page. All this so one might send an exile's perfect letter to an ancient hometown friend. I chose a lonely country, broke from love, scorned the fraternity of war. I polished my tongue against the pumice moon, floated my soul in cherry wine, a perfumed barge for lords of memory to languish on, to drink, to whisper out their store of strength, as if beyond the mist along the shore, their girls, their power, still obeyed like clocks wound for 1,000 years. I waited until my tongue was sore. Brown petals whined like fire around my poems. I aimed them at the stars, but like rainbows they were bent before they sawed the world in half. Who can trace the canyon paths cattle have carved out of time, wandering from meadowlands to feasts? Layer after layer of autumn leaves are swept away. Something forgets us perfectly.
That's Leonard Cohen reading for EJP, which was originally published in Flowers for Hitler in 1964, when you and I were 30.
Just boys.
Yeah. This is, do you change that at all?
That poem?
Yeah.
No. I have changed some lines in other poems. I think it's legitimate to keep editing your work, improving it, maybe messing it up, but I think it's legitimate to look at a piece and see a correction that may have escaped you. It's a risk, of course.
Yeah, we talked quite a lot before when you were here, which I found really interesting about your incessant rewriting and all the polishing you do and do and do and do, but I think when you got it out in hard covers, leave it alone.
I don't think so. I know that Whitman revised and Robert Graves revised. I mean, I think it's commonly done, even though the work is out in hardcover. Because sometimes you put stuff out that you abandon rather than finish, and sometimes it comes to you a little clearer.